channel 1 cell. Okay.
Yes.
So we have been discussing the coupled mode theory for a waveguide or waveguide system defined by a dielectric constant epsilon xy. That means this is the if any waveguide system, the cross section we are just considering as y, and this is say x, and then this is your waveguide. It can be SOI waveguide. Z direction is the propagation. So, and if you have certain kind of perturbation defined by like some perturbation, xy dependent perturbation, and that type of perturbation is periodic along z direction with a periodicity of lambda, capital lambda z, right? So instead of writing this, we just represent slightly differently. It is just not this type of modulation, means it is a sinusoidal modulation. If it is a sinusoidal, so in that case we can say that okay, this is xy perturbation, and then we can decompose into Fourier harmonics. Yeah. So in that case, we have actually derived so-called evolution of a kth mode by dz equal to minus j times beta k, propagation constant of the kth mode, by beta k, right? And then sum over m. M is the considering summation over all Fourier harmonics, and then n for summation over all modes, and then we have this ckn for each harmonics, and then you have your anz, right? And then you have your e to the power j beta k minus beta n minus m 2 pi by lambda times z. So this is what we have derived. It need not be, suppose your modulation, this modulation term is not at all z dependent. No periodicity is there along z dependent. So along z direction, certain length, if you have only this perturbation, that also is fine. Same equation we can use. In that case only this term will go, nothing else. Because longitudinal direction, you have this z dependence is there, that's why it is coming. If that is not there, then you don't need to go for this additional phase factor in the coupled equation, and you don't need also this one for that. Instead of that, it is simply dA kz by dz. I will come to that point a little while later for general solution. Just writing here for clarification. Here we will be writing just n, and then we'll be writing ckn. No need to write m, that means harmonics of the different harmonics of the perturbation, a periodic perturbation, and you will be writing just anz e to the power j beta k minus beta n. Obviously we know that we have discussed that delta beta, whether it is beta k minus beta n minus m by 2 pi by lambda, or beta k simply, if there is no periodic perturbation, then delta beta k can be written as simply beta k minus beta n. And also we have shown that if delta beta tends to 0, then only that evolution of kth mode you will be able to see. Otherwise, just integration will give you 0, because that is a sinusoid, that will be some value, it will be j something. So sinusoidal function, if you integrate over a length, then that will be accumulated as 0. No coupling will be there. So if this type of situation, if you can create, then there is a chance that that kth mode power will be evolved. It can gain some power, or it can couple to other modes or something like that. Here we are talking about coupling between k and nth mode. So if it is nth mode, then we are writing this thing. But if we are just considering all the modes involved that is contributing to the kth mode, then we can use the sum equation. Typically, we define kth mode electric field, say x, y, z, t. Normally, we will be writing something like that: ak, and then ek, xy, that is the field profile along the cross section, and then e to the power j omega t minus beta k z. That is the field profile. But in presence of perturbation, that perturbation can be j dependent or can be z independent. I'll just discuss that later. In that case, we can see that this kth mode can have, apart from z dependent phase variation, you can see some kind of amplitude variation also along z direction. That amplitude variation is represented like that, and that akz is coming here. I hope till now everything is clear, right? So now next thing is that we'll be just taking a special case, considering this periodic perturbation first, and then I will come back to this. If there is no periodic perturbation, just uniform perturbation, then what would be the situation? So in this case, if I just think of case 1, just certain case I am just considering, case 1, where I am considering k equal to 1 only and n equal to 2, and we just consider m equal to 1. You understand? I am just considering case k equal to 1 and n equal to 2. I don't want to consider any other mode. I want to restrict my discussion between two modes, k equal to 1 mode and another mode, mode number 2. And I want to see if they are having some kind of coupling because of m equal to 1. That means m equal to 1 means I'm just considering only one first Fourier coefficient and first harmonics I'm just considering. Then if I just consider this case 1 in this equation, how it will be looking like? So I can just a little bit move here. Yeah. So a little bit. Yeah, here we can write. We can write, say, maybe dA1 z by dz, k equal to 1, and minus j, here beta k. Beta k means I am writing beta 1 and beta 1 mode, right? And then what I will be writing? C1, 2, and m equal to 1, right? And then you have n equal to 2. That's why C1 to k and k equal to 1 and n equal to 2, C1, ckn. And A2, I will be writing A2z, right? And along with that, I will be writing e to the power j beta 1 minus k equal to 1, right? Beta 2 minus m equal to 1, 2 pi by lambda z. Is that clear? So this is the case I am considering, case 1. Case 1 I am just considering here. I repeat here. K equal to 1 in the coupled equation, n equal to 2. I am forgetting all other mode existing. Only 2 modes I am just restricting myself. Okay. Assuming that no other guided modes are there in the waveguide, for example. If you have questions, please ask. Okay. Now, you see, you have beta 1 and beta 2. Right? And this mode is coming, here the mode beta 1 is there and beta 1 in the numerator. This beta 1 sign will be considering depending on which direction it is propagating. Okay. So in this type of situation, if something like that, will be taking again 2 situations. Let us consider beta 1, beta 2 is greater than equal to 0. Beta 1 multiplied by beta 2 greater than 0. What does it mean? If you are using the sign, suppose mode 1 and mode 2 both are propagating in the same direction. They can be propagating in the positive z direction or they can be propagating in the negative z direction. Either direction they propagate. If it is negative direction, minus minus it will be plus. So negative direction, that means I will be writing minus beta 1 and again multiplied by minus beta 2, right? So that will be basically gives you beta 1 and beta 2 plus. So that means this is plus, this is plus, this is obviously greater than 0. So whenever both the modes means the modes we are considering are under coupling. If they are traveling in the same direction, then what we can write for this equation? I can write here beta 1 by beta 1 here. That means I am writing here, suppose dA1 z by dz equal to minus j C12 1 A2z e to the power j delta beta z I am writing. Okay, I am just considering beta 1 is positive direction, for example. Beta 1 positive direction or negative, if it is negative direction, this would be plus. Minus sign will be plus. Let us consider beta 1 is the positive direction and beta 2 also positive direction I am considering. Then one equation I am getting like this, and another equation I can also consider. How we can consider? Okay, this thing I should a little bit modify this one here. So let us consider, I am considering this case when my situation is beta 1, beta 2 greater than 0. This is the general condition. First thing I am just considering k equal to 1, n equal to 2, and then I have derived this equation like this. What is C12? C12, say 1 is nothing but omega by 4 integration E1 star xy and E2 xy mode 2 field strength and dx dy. Clear, right? Now for the same situation, if I am just putting case 2, sorry, yeah, and I am just considering case 2 now, where I'll be considering k equal to 2, n equal to 1, and m equal to what? You just remember that I am just starting from this equation. Where it is? Yeah, this is my master equation, and here I have considered m equal to 1 and k equal to 1, right? This one master equation, k equal to 1 and n equal to 2, m equal to 1. Because of m equal to 1, what is I'm considering? I'm considering kth mode of evolution of kth mode and coupling with the k means 1 mode, coupling to the evolution of mode 1 because of presence of the perturbation of mode 2 happens because m equal to 1. Now if I want to consider k equal to 2, n equal to 1 instead of k equal to 1 and n equal to 2, just a reverse situation I'm considering. Suppose I want to see instead of mode evolution of mode number 1, instead of that, if you are considering evolution of mode number 2. So that is the other way. I want to see what is happening to the mode number 2. That means A1, instead of A1, I will be writing dA2z. I will come back to M again later. dz, right, equal to minus j, right, C12, 1, and n equal to 1 I will be writing, right? That means A1z. Now I am, instead of dA1z dz, I am writing dA2 dz. I have seen earlier that this type of equation could be formed because of m equal to 1. But if it is reverse case, k equal to 1, n equal to 2, I am just putting k equal to 2, n equal to 1. That is possible if it is m equal to minus 1. Because you see, whenever, I think this is, if it is a board, it would have been better. So if m equal to 1, pumping power from A2 to A1, pump will be, or energy will be flowing from A2 to A1 to A2, reverse direction, only when m equal to minus 1. So that means, what I am saying again, I think a little bit visualization here required. Whenever I am just considering my, where is this one? Perturbation. So this is far away, right? Yeah. So you see, this m, whenever I am putting here m can be running from minus to 0 and plus minus 1, plus minus 2, all sorts of things can happen. Fourier transform, right? It can accept plus sign as well as minus sign. So if energy is flowing from mode 2 to mode 1 because of m equal to 1, then energy will flow reverse direction when m equal to minus 1. That is the condition, right? So in that case, I'll be writing here e to the power j, and beta k means beta 2 now, and beta n means 1, and minus m, instead of minus m, I will be writing plus 1, minus m equal to minus 1, so this will be plus, so 2 pi by lambda times z, right? Now what we have written, delta beta here, delta beta we have written here equal to beta 1 minus beta 2 minus 2 pi by lambda, that is delta beta. This one is delta beta. So if this is delta beta, then what is this one? This is actually nothing but minus delta beta. So I can write another equation,
Sir,
a to z by dz, right, equal to minus j of C12. Oh, this would be, I think someone should correct me here.
C2.
Just doing all sorts of mistake here. So this should be 2 1, and this should be also 2 1 because it is reverse direction. T1, and this should be because of the minus 1, right? And here I will be writing A1 Z. So this should be minus 1 because m equal to minus 1 now, and e to the power minus j delta beta z. So I have my two equations. Okay, I have my two equations. Sorry. This equation, one equation, and another equation I have written earlier. Which one? This one. Okay, and we consider that beta 1 minus beta 1 times beta. So all both the cases I have just considered. It's very difficult to handle. Yeah, so this is the case. That means both the modes are co-propagating, co-directional propagation. If co-directional propagation is this one, then and they are coupling, both the modes are propagating in the same direction and they are under coupling, then we can write these two equations. Okay, so if we are I just trace here, that would be better. So for co-directional coupling, between two modes, so-called 1 and 2, modes 1 and 2, right? So we can write dA1Z by dz equal to minus j times C1. I am writing 1 for m equal to 1, and then a to z e to the power j delta beta z. So that is actually equation number 1, say we are writing. And then if I just see the power flow in reverse direction, then k equal to 2, and this will be dz equal to minus j. So C21 minus 1 A1Z e to the power minus j delta beta z. And here co-directional coupling means this is actually beta 1, beta 2 is supposed to be greater than 0. This is the co-directional case. Two equations I am getting. If we are restricting between two modes and one mode auxiliary equation, we always consider beta 1 minus beta 2 minus 2 pi by lambda. And this is auxiliary equation, say we consider this is actually 3, for example. Okay, maybe if we write equation number 3, that is actually 3, and C12 will be written as omega by 4 overlap of E1 star xy E2 xy dx dy, and C2 star C21 will be equal to, if it is just 1 m equal to 1, I'm not writing here because this is not coming in this expression. So omega by 4 will be writing E2 star xy E1 xy dx dy.
Sir,
So these are the other equations C1. And normally here, if you see, if you notice these two equations, basically C12 equal to C21 star.
sir,
Yeah.
here there should be a delta epsilon.
Someone want to ask question?
There should be
Go
a
ahead,
delta
please.
epsilon.
Aswant,
Yes, sir. Should there be
I
a
think you are not
delta
audible.
epsilon?
Why?
Because C12
You are
of
not
1 and C2.
audible. Can you hear?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
I don't know why it's not audible. Maybe here.
Hello.
Like you were not audible. Like wait for something. Like
Yeah, now you are audible, Jaswant. Yeah.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes. I think it was
Yeah.
a problem in my case. Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, there should be a delta epsilon of xy in C12 and C2,
Oh, right.
and B1 and BM, the BM term.
Right. Exactly. I missed that part. Yeah. So that in C1 to C2 expressions, right? Yeah. So I should write here. Maybe here that is right. C12 should be omega by 4, and then integration here, instead of, if it is 1, we will be writing say B1, right? Or B1 I can write because it is a constant, right? So constant I can put outside. That's true. That's a B1, that's a first Fourier coefficient, and then integration over E1 star del E1 star xy delta epsilon xy, okay, some profile delta epsilon xy, and E2 xy dxy. Exactly, that is otherwise it is a huge mistake. Yeah. And C2 minus 1 should be equal to omega by 4. So you have to take minus Fourier coefficient minus direction, minus harmonics. So it will be written as E2 xy delta epsilon xy and E1 xy, sorry, xy dx dy. That is C12. But one thing is clear, that whether you are, I think this thing should not be there. True. So if you just observe these two equations, this one, this equation and this equation, these two equations, if you just observe, then you can easily write that this C12 equal to C21 star. Assuming it can be shown that if B1 and B2 are B1 values are complex, then B1 and B minus 1, they will be also complex conjugate. If Fourier coefficients are complex, then plus direction and minus direction, they will become also complex conjugate to each other. So in that case, we can write here this one. In that case, we can say that if C12 we defined as a kappa, then C21 we can write kappa star. So they are same value. We can integrate, you can actually estimate that one, and we are, instead of C12, because we are restricting ourselves only between two modes, that's why we are just writing kappa and kappa star. So if we write that kappa and kappa star, the equations then converted into d1z by dz equal to minus j kappa, right? Minus j kappa and a2z, right? E to the power j delta beta z, and t a2z dz equal to minus j kappa star a1z e to the power minus j delta beta z. So these are the two coupled equation, between where obviously you should keep in mind that mode 1 is defined as
mode 1 is defined as the electric field distribution. We can write A1Z E1 xy e to the power j omega t minus beta 1 z, and E2 is the mode A2Z E1 xy e to the power j omega t minus beta 2 z. Note that here also minus beta 1 z, here also minus beta 2 z, meaning they are co-propagating. So for co-propagating mode, again I am writing for co-propagating mode for a periodic perturbation, right? And you should not forget that this is very, very important. Delta beta equal to beta 1 minus beta 2 minus 2 pi by lambda. And also we should not forget that when this tends to 0, then only coupling will be possible. If that is large deviation, that has a large deviation from 0, then coupling will not be possible. For co-propagating things, two modes, you can see they can actually have some kind of evolution both for mode 1 and mode 2. You remember that if you, this is electric field, right? Overall dimension is volt per meter, right? Volt per meter. So if you are just considering this profile is dimensionless, E2, E1 and E2xy is just dimensionless, then I can say that the dimension of this A1 and A2z can be volt per meter. So that means whatever I am considering as volt per meter and again per meter, that means volt per meter square. The dimension of this one will be volt per meter square. Dimension of this left hand side is volt per meter square. You should keep in mind because it is a differentiation. Okay. Now this is for co-propagating mode, and when we consider that the perturbation is delta epsilon x, y, z is assumed to be delta epsilon x, y, right, and bm e to the power minus m 2 pi by lambda z. Periodic perturbation is there. So two modes are there. If it is a waveguide and some periodic perturbation is there, then the power exchange or power coupling or amplitude coupling between these two modes can be defined by these two equations. You need to solve this. A1, then you can find A1z and A2z. At any z position, what would be the amplitude you can find, and you can associate it to the power carried by this mode at that particular position. But suppose you have a delta epsilon is just delta epsilon xy. Is that possible really? Jet independent. In which situation you can think of this thing? And two modes are coupling, for example. This type of situation.
Anisotropic material.
Anisotropic material, because I said that suppose you have a waveguide like this. This is y, this is a x, right? And then you have this waveguide. It's an isotropic material you are considering, right? This waveguide, suppose it can support two modes. That two modes can be, one mode may be in the positive direction, another mode can be negative direction. It can be a single mode waveguide. Okay. But single mode waveguide, in this case, coupling cannot be considered between two modes because this is co-propagating, co-directional propagating. I think instead of co-propagating, I would say co-directional propagating. That is better. It should be co-directional propagating. Okay, co-directional propagation. So if co-directional propagation means both the modes are going E1 and E2 in the same direction, either in the positive z direction or in the negative direction. And in that case, exchange is taking place if suppose you can consider that, okay, there may be some kind of perturbation is there periodically. Perturbation is there periodically and something like this. That is the situation is there. That is what we have defined like this one. But if I say that this perturbation is there but not Z dependent, you have waveguide is there, certain waveguide is there, Y, X, so this is your waveguide. It was explained by, it's a dielectric constant, this one. Now I want to say that suddenly you have certain kind of perturbation like this, but that is Z independent. Can you imagine that type of perturbation? Anyone? Ankita? How one perturbation, this one is this perturbation. This is actually, we are considering that this perturbation can be written as delta xy and harmonics Fourier things we can consider m 2 pi by lambda z. But I want to have a perturbation something like this. How you can think of? So for this type of perturbation, I have these equations, coupled equation. I will
stress in those directions.
Applying
Stress in those directions. Stress, longitudinal direction.
Longitudinal direction. Suddenly, if you just apply stress in the longitudinal direction, yeah, probably you can consider like that. One easiest form of explaining describing that is just consider that suppose two modes are propagating. Just top view you are just showing. This is your one waveguide, right? It's a Z direction, and two modes are propagating. One mode defined by E1 or A1Z, and another is E2, that is actually amplitude varying as a function of Z. This is Z direction, and it has a beta 1 and it is a beta 2 propagation constant, right? This is the cross section. If you see XY cross section, that is obviously it will be looking like this. That's true. Okay, this is your waveguide cross section, Y, X. That's true. And as long as you maintain this cross section, there will be this A1Z will be independent, Z independent. That's a constant value. But I am expecting that they should be coupled in some way because of some kind of perturbation. One perturbation I have discussed, the periodic perturbation. Now I am saying that, well, if there is no periodic perturbation, permanent perturbation is there. Then whether any chance that these two modes will be coupled to each other. Suppose you have another waveguide, neighboring waveguide you just consider here, suddenly coming. Another waveguide. So here, it's supposed to be, whenever you are writing this one, this is infinitely extended in both directions. But by chance, if you have another integrated optics, no, that you can have another waveguide also neighboring region. So you have another waveguide. And that another waveguide is so close that the field distribution when we are solving here, evanescent tail can see also the existence of the second waveguide. And that waveguide from this Z equal to 0, that presence of that waveguide continued up to some, this one up to Z equal to 0 and Z equal to L. It continued up to Z equal to L, and then again they will be just separated. Okay, they are separated like this. That will continue and they are decoupled, so that the field, evanescent field, won't see the presence of the second waveguide. That's far away. So up to here it is just observing. So in that case, I can say that for Z equal to 0 to Z equal to L, you have a permanent perturbation delta epsilon xy. Okay, and you can assume that in this waveguide, whatever if it is propagating, that has a mode E1 and A1 z and propagation constant beta 1. And here you have a solution for this waveguide also. You have E2 mode, and it can consider also varying power because they are somehow coupled, and the propagation constant is beta 2. So that means I can say that this is a single mode waveguide. You have designed single mode waveguide. And this is also a single mode waveguide, but dimension can be different such that your beta 1 and beta 2 value can be different. Meaning n effective 1 may not be equal to n effective 2. That means beta 1 may not be equal to beta 2. If it is so, then delta beta, you don't have that periodic perturbation. So delta beta equal to simply beta 1 minus beta 2. And if they are not equal to 0. If they are not equal to 0, how much deviated from 0? And you can solve that equation here, whatever I am considering here. So here, whenever I am deriving this equation, this delta beta, this part will not be there. And then this C1 to C21, you don't need to consider this one, B1 and B minus, because nothing is there. Only you have to consider this perturbation. Existence of this perturbation means existence of the cladding region, existence of the second waveguide in the cladding region. And here, this field is the field distribution for the waveguide 1, and this can be field profile distribution in the waveguide 2. And same type of kappa equation, that C12 and C21 we can use for both cases. They are also, this condition is also valid. This condition also valid. So this particular equation, whatever I have derived here, that is also true for coupling between two waveguides, neighboring waveguides. Do you have any question now? Can you calculate kappa value for this type of situation? What would be the kappa value? How to calculate kappa in this type of situation? I know that you can calculate, right? You can, if you have a waveguide here, right? This is your waveguide, and then you have another waveguide presence here. Okay, and then both the waveguide, suppose parallel, like this. Right? And suppose E1, whatever you are getting here, E1, this is waveguide 1, and this is waveguide 2. And if you solve independently, you get a propagation constant. It is also single mode, propagation constant beta 1. And if you solve here using numerical or mode solver, etc., you can get solution is beta 2. Right? Propagation constant beta 2, and you can have mode field distribution E1x here and E2xy. Now, according to our definition, kappa value is omega by 4 E1 star xy delta epsilon xy E2 xy dx dy. Should not forget that whenever I am talking about E1 xy, I am solving E1 xy assuming that second waveguide was not there at all. That was something like this. infinitely extended like this. And similarly, when I'm calculating this one, I'm assuming that presence of second waveguide was there, but first waveguide was not there. But now I want to see that if both the waveguide present, I'm sure that somehow you have a delta epsilon is present. So they are modes. The evanescent tail of first waveguide is interacting with the second waveguide and vice versa. So now if I ask you that you know this one, you calculate it from your mode solver. You have calculated from your mode solver this one. Now can you calculate this one? Obviously you can calculate because you know E1 xy. If it is a complex, that's E1 star, otherwise real value real. E2 xy you can put, but how to get delta epsilon xy? Anyone? Let me see. Anyone can help me? At least I will just. Whom to ask? Other than Jaswant, who is there? Arthur, tell me. Will you be able to calculate this one? Arthur, you can hear me? Anil? Arthur is not listening. Anil, can you tell me?
Hello, sir.
Arthur is not sure. Anil, can you calculate this one? Kappa value in this type of situation? Only thing is that if you know the delta epsilon, then you will be able to, right?
Yes, sir.
So is there any chance that you know the delta epsilon value? Because you see, it is an entire region. Cross section, if you see, this is your entire cross section, XY cross section, right?
Yes, sir.
So E1 XY, you know what is the field distribution. Suppose if it is two-dimensional, I can say that just along Y direction, if I want to see field, right? This is your waveguide, or maybe in the top view if I see. Okay, let us see that waveguide field distribution is like this, right? This is your E1 XY profile. For a given X direction, you have this profile. And then you have a second waveguide, something like this. And there also, if you individually calculate your mode profile, you will be getting like this. When you are calculating again, you remember that whenever you are calculating this one and this one, you are assuming that the second waveguide was not there. Now both the waveguides are there, and I am asking you that you have to calculate this one. Then only, because according to the coupled mode theory, that is the kappa value. That is, if kappa equal to 0, then always you see if kappa equal to 0, this one 0, right? So A1 is constant, A2 is constant. They are orthogonal like situation. No power will be coupled to each other. But if you get kappa is non-zero, if you get this calculation is non-zero, where? Yeah. Is there any chance that this can be 0? Kappa value? Then it will be easier. Suppose two waveguides are there. When the kappa value will be 0? I'm not sure all of you are following my class or not. This coupled mode theory. Because this is very crucial.
When the separation between the two waveguides is large.
So in that case, this will be 0, na? So,
Yeah,
so this will be 0 when at a part, if you just integrate, then where E1 is existing, either delta epsilon should not exist or E2 should not exist. So I'm asking you, you have, can you just say that the E1xy and E2xy given to you, and you are asked to calculate this value. How to calculate? This is a simple thing. I know this field distribution here that you have solved. Field distribution here you solved. And when there was nothing. Now you have the delta epsilon, you have to integrate. This delta epsilon coming from where? The concept is that is because of the presence of the second waveguide. Okay, so I think today I leave it here. It looks like that you are not following things, but you just think. I think whatever discussed today's class, you just think a bit. That would be helpful to proceed further. So you just try to see how to calculate this value. Then you will be visualizing better that how two modes can be coupled. At least two modes guiding independently in two different waveguides. If they are interacting at all, how much power will be coupled or can be shared by two modes. If there are any chance that energy launched in mode launched in one waveguide, is there any chance that that can be leaked to the second waveguide or not? If it is leaked, how much it will be leaked? That depends on the strength of this kappa value. Now the question is how you can calculate the kappa value. You know the dimensions of both the waveguides. Separation between these two waveguides, you know. You want to calculate how to do that. Just think about that, and tomorrow I will continue from here. Tomorrow means next class. Okay.